been 1 month since the November 3rd election, and still, false claims of election fraud took center stage last night in Lansing. The hours-long hearing on the 2020 election ended just before 11.
The House Oversight Committee chair said he wanted to get to the truth, and he called President Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, to testify. Giuliani repeated claims we've already heard from people whose affidavits have already been thrown out in court. Tom Helen joins us now with what Giuliani said. What's the deal here, Tom?
All right, obviously a long meeting, but Giuliani only testified for about 50 minutes during that 4.5 hours. He repeated claims about massive voter fraud and told lawmakers they had the power to call into question the results of the election. We want to play you a couple of portions of Rudy Giuliani's testimony in Lansing. At one point, he tells members of the committee they have the power to reverse the results of the election if they think they're quote-unquote false. However, when a lawmaker questioned him about whether he was asking the state House and Senate to hand the president Michigan's 16 electoral college votes, Giuliani walked his statement back.
I would never certify an election or have my name associated with anything that was false. Now, it is your responsibility to do that. Not the governor, not the Secretary of State. You were given that responsibility by our founding fathers.
You want the State House and Senate of Michigan to hand the president the 16 electoral votes for Michigan? Is that what your ask is today?
No, I didn't ask that. I asked that you hold, that you take back your power under Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2 of the Constitution, that you take back that power and that you spend the time, not just to listen to, I gave you you shouldn't decide anything based on what I gave you. It's just a sample. It's just a
Well, in Casey and Teresa, up to this point, Senate Majority Leader Mike Shirkey has said he has no intention of reversing the will of Michigan voters.
Thanks, Tom. And as Giuliani was testifying last night, the Ottawa County clerk was live fact-checking him on Twitter.
News 8's Lindsay McCombs talked to the clerk, who's a Republican, and shared what he's hearing from voters in his county.
Was there anything else or any other allegations that you heard that you believe can be explained, given you're a county clerk, you know a lot about elections, probably too much on some days, but anything else that really stood out to you?
I think, some of the biggest claims that we've been dealing with are the, manipulation of vote totals by the system that counts the votes. And that really and truly, because we use paper ballots in Michigan and in literally almost every state in the country, that can be proven whether or not machines manipulate votes. We're about to embark on post-election auditing process here in the state of Michigan. We're auditing about 10% of our precincts here in Ottawa County in the month of December. And part of that audit is going to be a hand recount of selected races to verify vote totals. And, I'm very confident that those vote totals will be accurate. I really believe people deserve an accurate and transparent election process, but they also deserve honesty. And I think we have to give people honest facts. We have to get to the bottom of some of these issues. And when false and misleading allegations are displayed, we need to confront those allegations, and we need to give people honesty because people need to trust the process that they're using to select their government.
Roebuck also shared his thoughts on how we can make our elections better. He said that includes more training for challengers and observers by election officials rather than by political parties so that they can better understand the process.